really appreciate you all being here. This means so much to me. I cannot thank you enough. Are you ready to read a book? I know I am. Your support means everything to me. Okay, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Considering the sexy scenes he's read, totally 18 plus. Don't you know who you're talking to?
Daddy. Strength to hold in what is trying to get out. Okay. Temptation.
He lowers himself down between my legs and watches me closely as he pushes himself inside me. I cry out, moaning with pleasure, uncaring how feral and out of control I sound. Kyle moves slowly at first, kissing me so softly that I feel like I might explode. Then he pulls back and slams into me hard.
I shall save you all from spiders. I'm an expert trapper and releaser. That's so sweet that you release them. I murder them.
Hello and good evening. What's up? The oldest noob. Hello, sir. It's good to see you. Hope you are doing well. It's, They will never understand. Hi, Stunt Mama's mama. How the heck are you? 1 week? 1 week. I'm very excited. And Kay's here. Hi, Kay. How are you? I get to give Stunt Mama's mama, a big old hug in 1 week's time. And I'm excited. Oh, hold on. Yes. Very excited. It's going to be a good time. Can't wait. I've got the address for your daughter's house in my phone, ready to go, so I know exactly how to get there. Avoiding all the tolls, because tolls suck. And Mitchell catching that first place reward. Cheers to... Oh, what is going on with my water bottle? That's interesting. It's supposed to be yellow. Good job catching that first place spot. I am a happy girl today, but tired. Early bed for me tonight again. You deserve all the sleep that you can muster, so I hope you do. Dropping in to say hi. Thank you, Jen. I hope you're alright. And Lux is here. It didn't take you very long at all to jump in. Hi, Lux. How the heck are you? Good. I was hoping you would try to avoid the toll road. Yes. The app, the I think it's the native one to iPhone, I think is what I'm using. Not Google Maps, the other one. It has an option to avoid tolls. So we're all set. And Amlas is here. Hi, Amlas. How's it going? All the cool kids showing up. Love to see it. Sorry I wasn't here last Thursday, or this past Thursday. Had to do that whole season ticket basketball thing. Technically, tonight, I didn't realize, is also, there's a basketball game going on right now that we would have been going to, but none of us are going. So, the whole family stayed home. But we're winning, as far as I knew, so... Yes, I am very sore, but well, I am sorry you are sore. You're still sore. Man. I'm so sorry. I've been sick, so been sleeping a lot. Just happened to wake up and see you went live. Yeah, that's right. I remember you saying you were sick. Is it getting any better, though? Is it, are you on the mend, so to speak? I hope you are, because being sick is no fun. Like, ever. Oh, check out the new hat, by the way. Very Peaky Blinders. What do we think? Do we like it? Ow, I just smacked the microphone again. I should have a redeem for every time I hit the mic, because I do that a lot. Now, I realize what some of you may be thinking. I know technically we haven't had Thanksgiving yet, and what you're seeing on the screen here is very Christmassy. I'm easing into it. So like my reading page does not have any Christmassy stuff, okay? Just, at least not yet. Let's see, what I miss. I'll try to stay longer next time, guys. Sorry, work during holidays is rough. It's draining me. Don't worry about it, Jen. Do what you gotta do, okay? Thank you for popping in. I thought I was. Felt fine yesterday, but fever came back today. Oh no. You probably overdid it, and then your body was like, whoa, slow down. How dare you insinuate? I think. Well. Hi, Haiti. And Rexter's here. What's up, my dude? A drummer from another mother. We put up some of our outside lights today because the weather was perfect. I'm transforming my house throughout the week so I will be Christmas ready by next Sunday. Perfect. I actually plugged in a bunch of inflatables outside because it was nice here as well. So the inflatables outside are set and ready. And I've got a smart plug with an app so I'll set up a schedule and the timing of everything. And then we'll start. We're doing Thanksgiving here at our house, so we'll start setting up a few Christmassy things around Thanksgiving, like on Thanksgiving Day, perhaps. But we're not actually doing Christmas here. We're doing Christmas at my in-laws, so we won't go like overboard with the Christmas stuff, just because we won't be here on Christmas Day. So it's fine. Anywho, let's check out your puzzle for this evening, if you are so inclined. There it is. It's a teddy bear surrounded by Christmas ornaments, some baubles, and the like. So if you feel up to a holiday-spirited puzzle, feel free to jump right in. Exclamation point puzzle, as always. In the meantime, though, ladies and gentlemen, We have a book. Okay. So obviously there'll be no stream on Thursday because that is Thanksgiving. But we will be back Sunday. So really chopping up the stream with all these holidays and basketball things. It's not fair. All right. I'm so bad at those puzzles. Oh, it's easy. It's a community-based puzzle. So you can all do it together if you want. You don't have to do it by yourself. That's the best part. Excuse me. Hold on. I don't know why it is that every time I get set up here to stream, that my throat just starts to get irritated. Makes no sense. Oh, real quick. A little news. Earlier today, I made a voiceover reel that I submitted for a video game demo. So, basically what's happening is a bunch of people like myself will be submitting their auditions for a video game, but specifically at this moment for the demo of the game. If we're chosen, we'll get 20 to 30 lines. And then if they like it, when it's time for the real game, you know, fingers crossed, I'll get kind of a callback and they'll actually hire me for the real thing. So right now it's just, you know, getting everyone's auditions in. So I have mine in there. So please cross everything that you can think of. Cross your toes, cross your fingers. And hopefully I'll get picked to do the demo. So yeah, it's not a done deal yet. Everyone has until the 22nd, so just a couple more days really, to get their submissions in. And I don't know how long it's going to take for them to like pick and choose. Like, I don't know, but my email's in, my reel is there, my links are there for extra motivation. So we'll see. I'm really, really hoping I can get picked because I would love to break into the video game side of things. That would be awesome. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there while I had the chance and it was on my mind. But for now, chapter 3. So we didn't get very far last time. We did the prologue, chapters 1, chapter 2. Gosh darn it. I should have made some tea. I know better. I should have done it. But I didn't. All right. So we're on page 30. Exclamation point virus, if you want to know more about this book and our author. Mr. Rhino, how are you, sir? How's it going? It's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. Thank you. How are things up north? You holding on? Did you move yet? Has that happened? I know stuff was in the works last time I heard. I just don't know if you've actually done the moving. Never a fun time. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep this hat on because it's getting pretty warm. You'll hopefully know tomorrow if we're sold. Okay. All right. So it's right there on the edge. All right. Well, hopefully you'll sleep tonight. It's good to see you, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. We're on page 30. We're starting chapter 3. And I don't remember how to pronounce that character's name properly. So if our author shows up, I'm sure she will correct me if I'm off base, and that's fine. I want that. But for now, we'll just make it work. So sit back, relax, do what you gotta do, and I'll read to you. Janelle awoke to darkness. A small candle lent its feeble light from the table in the kitchen. The house appeared to be empty. She sat up, noting that the pain in her chest had diminished. She looked around. Orion, because I kept saying Orion, but I'm pretty sure it's Orion. Orion was nowhere to be seen. She was relieved at this. After his attitude earlier, she didn't want to converse with him at this moment. She felt the bandages with her fingers. They were dry, which was a good sign that her wound was healing well. She swung her legs to the floor. In the kitchen, she grabbed the candle and made her way to the bathroom. After doing her business, she stared at herself in the mirror. No blood seeped through the bandages. She peeled them away to examine the wound. The flesh around the entry point was still red and angry, but the wound itself had scabbed over. She felt new skin beneath the scabs. It would heal in another day or two, although she'd always have a scar. Just like the one in her hairline from the head injury she just sustained on the day she'd escaped Trustee. She probed her chest wound again. It was located just to the left and above her right breast. If the wound had been just inches to her left, she would have died instantly. Program or not. She would be dead. Jack would still be alive, and Tourette would have won another round. Her stomach growled, reminding her she hasn't eaten much food earlier. Or hadn't eaten much food earlier. I can read. The program needed energy to work. She left the bathroom and carried the candle back to the kitchen. On her way there, she stopped by the bed and slipped into the coat Orion had given her. The tiny flame of the candle lit her way to the kitchen. Her program flashed on, enhancing her eyesight. The green glow reflected off the walls. A paper bag lay on the stove. Orion had written, "In case you're hungry," on it in case you're hungry on it, but left no indication of where he'd gone or when he'd be back. The axe was missing from its spot by the door. She opened the bag and peered inside. There was a small loaf of crusty bread, a peach, a handful of nuts, and dried meat. Her stomach rumbled again. She brought the bag to the table and sat. The candle's flame danced like a restless spirit. The last time she'd had dinner by candlelight, Jack had proposed to her. A pang hit her heart. How long had it been? 8? Maybe 9 months ago? The wedding would have been in a couple of months. Stop it, she told herself. Now is not the time to be thinking of him. What was wrong with her? She had not been this emotional since her childhood. Now she was getting upset over every little thought of him. Perhaps the program had suppressed more than just memories. Janelle swallowed the pain and picked up the peach. She took a bite. It was sweet and juicy and so damn delicious. How long had it been since she'd had fruit so sweet? She couldn't remember. Juice dribbled down her chin. Juice dribbled down her chin. She tore off a shred of bread and used it to soak up the juice. Then she popped it in her mouth. She was alternating between meat and nuts when the door to the cabin swung open and with a bang, and Orion staggered in, dragging his axe. "Oh," he said when he spied her. I see you are up." He leaned heavily against the door a moment before slamming it shut. With extra care, he placed the axe against the wall. Yeah, Janelle said, trying to ignore the obvious fact that he was drunk. Thanks for the food. No problem. He dropped to the bench across from her. Thirsty? I have plenty of sake in the ishi box. And grab me one while you're at it. Are you sure you need any more? Girlie, I've just sharted. That's funny. The small ice box to the right of the stove brimmed with sake bottles. Did the man drink nothing else? She grabbed two against her better judgment. So, where were you? She asked, trying to sound amicable. She sat and slid a bottle over to him. To check my traps and shell some fish, he said. He popped the cork from the bottle and glared at her over the rim. Plus, I was at an anti-trustee meeting. Janelle saw malice in Orion's eyes. It sobered him. Why do you hate trustee so much? She asked. He took a swig of sake before answering. Trustee stole my life from me. Janelle suddenly felt uncomfortable. A trustee raid, no doubt. She didn't want to know anymore, but Orion told her anyway. 5 years ago, he began, and then stopped a moment as if to collect his thoughts before continuing. 5 years ago, there was a trustee raid in Tannen. My wife and child were home alone. I was working the fields on the opposite end of town when it began. By the time I made it home, someone had dragged them out into the street and shot them in cold blood. I tackled the nearest soldier, but another pulled me off and struck me down. Trustee murdered my family. Tourette fucking stole them from me. Trustee stole everything from me. Janelle looked into Orion's eyes. A dead man glared back at her. The scar over his left eye was an ugly shadow. He brought his hand up to touch it, to cover it. You got that during the raid? She asked. He remained silent, but she knew the answer was yes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. He sighed. It ain't your fault. How old was your son? The question came out before she realized it. He would have been 10 next month. I'm 5 years old. The tiny voice entered her head unexpectedly. An image burned in her mind. A young boy with a tussle of brown hair and innocent brown eyes. How old are you, little man? I'm 5 years old. Pain stabbed her brain like a dagger. Her hands flew to her head. She muffled a cry. Not again. A residual memory hit her. Little bits of memory rising from trustee suppression procedures. She'd had a few of them over the past several months since her enlightenment. Memories could not be erased, only suppressed by the program. Memories of the horrible things trustee soldiers had to do, and the horrible things that had been done to them. The boy, I'm 5 years old, stood on the wooden floor of what appeared to be a living room in a small house, looking up at her with doe eyes. How old are you, little man? I'm 5 years old. He smiled up at her. Did you hear me? huh? Orian's voice snapped her back to the present. The boy's voice faded from her mind. Her heart thudded in her chest. I said this afternoon you mentioned you were on a mission. Yet you are no longer with Trustee. What sort of mission? She hesitated, still off balance and unnerved by the residual memory. Had he not seen her distress? He most certainly was an odd man. Should she tell him about her mission? Could he be trusted? I'll tell you what, she said finally. You tell me about this antitrust tea meeting you attended tonight, and I'll tell you about my mission. You first. All right. I'm looking for someone. Problem is, I have no clue where he could be. I've searched every town I've come across, and I've inquired with anyone who will listen. But the damn trustee dogs put me off course. I think I'm heading back the way I came. Damn. They sent the dogs after you. Impressive. They rarely send the dogs. You must really be a threat to them, girlie. Janelle looked him in the eye. I am a threat to them. I have been enlightened. Enlightened? I've heard something about that. What exactly is it? Why does it make you such a serious threat to them? She hesitated again. I'm not sure I should continue with this conversation. She put her hands on the table and rose. His hand slammed down on hers. Look, girlie, he said, leaning over the table. She sat back down. You already told me enough to get us both in some serious shit. Now, either you trust me or you don't. But I deserve to know the truth after what I've done for you. Her temper flared, but she forced herself to remain calm. You're right. I apologize. I didn't choose to leave Trustee. I was chosen, enlightened. I went in one day for an update to my program, and instead the mind control portion of the program was deleted. I was given a file that told the truth about Trustee and a name. What is it? The name? Chris Jordison. But no one has ever heard of him. Orion sat back on the bench. Her. Huh? Chris Jordison is a woman, and it's spelled K-R-I-S. Janelle's heart skipped a beat. You know who I'm talking about? Yes. I'm surprised you don't know her name. After all, she's the creator of the program. What? Wait. No, that's not right. Tourette's mother created the program. That's right. Who do you think Tourette's mother is, girlie? Christina Jordison Tourette. Janelle was speechless. She learned in school that the creator of the program was K.J. Tourette. She never thought that the person's name she was looking for was spelled with a K instead of a C. Anyway, Orion continued, not only do I know who she is, but I also know where she is. Not exactly the friendliest place in Barovia, I'll admit. Can you take me there? This sounded too good to be true. He got a gleam in his eye. Perhaps. But you'll have to help me first. Absolutely. Whatever you need. A wicked smile spread across his lips. We need help with a minor problem at the Swanton Trustee Power Plant. They've put a curfew on the town's electricity use, haven't they? He nodded. Smart girl. Can you help? What did you do? Or the town, rather? It was a simple mistake. She waited. Just a joke. She remained silent. Oh, all right. Someone drew a picture of Tourette humping a sheep and posted it on the power plant door. Sorry. Was it you? It was meant to be a political statement. I thought you said it was a joke. It was both. Uh-huh. Your lucky trustee didn't execute anyone. Tourette's extremely sensitive about his image. Yeah, about that. Someone did get executed? Maybe. By the null, Orion. This isn't a laughing matter. And you want me to help you? Who was it? The mayor. She pressed her palm to her head. Oh, dear gods. But you'll help us, right? She sighed. Yeah, I'll help. If only so he'd lead her to Chris Jordison. Several bottles of sake later, Orion laid passed out on the table. Janelle had downed 3 of them and felt more than a little tipsy herself. They'd spent the last couple of hours discussing what to do about the curfew limit on the electricity. She'd seen the answer right away, surprising him with her extensive knowledge of the subject. I've installed my fair share of inhibitors, she shrugged. Now, with the sake making her mind swim, Janelle stared at Orion. Seeing him there, snoring in a pile of drool, his glasses askew, Janelle pitied him. He'd lost everything. Trustee had ruined his life. She felt guilty even if she hadn't lent a direct hand in the deaths of his wife and son. 5 years ago, she thought back. 5 years ago, she'd been 18. 18 and a newly made officer. She remembered being so excited when they'd handed her the sword, and the congratulations from peers and the personal thanks from Tourette himself. She remembered being handed her first mission to complete as an officer. I'm 5 years old. Even though she no longer remembered what it was. Janelle had gone on to become a member of Tourette's personal guard, his personal driver, one of the highest honors in trustee. It seemed so empty now. Empty words, empty feelings, empty meaning. She stifled a yawn. Before retiring, she found a blanket and draped it around Orion. He snorted and mumbled something incoherently. On impulse, Janelle leaned over him and kissed the top of his head. She pulled back, wrinkling her nose. Oh, by the null, Orion. You need a bath. And that is chapter 3. So, he knows Tourette's mother and knows where she is. But in order to gain that information, she needs to help with the electricity problem, as it keeps being limited. And he doesn't want that. So I guess we'll find out what happens next in Chapter 4. We don't have chapter titles here, remember? It's just the chapter and the number. So, could be anything. I don't know. I need to take this hat off, though, because it's a great hat, and I love it. But it's definitely an outdoors thing. And I am indoors, and it's warm in here, so... Whew. That's better. Hope everyone's doing alright. puzzles coming along. Almost got all the edge pieces. I was just trying to see if I could see any right off the top, but they're so well hidden, disguised. Wait. I found one. I have no idea what it connects to. Not that. Not that. That. Nailed it. See, I'm helping. I got one. Oh, here's another. I got two. Two in a row. From what I heard, sounds like an interesting book. Yes. And you're doing well, Stop Mom's Mama? Awesome. It is. Lux, if you're able to, do !virus. And then you'll be able to read the back of the book and kind of learn a little bit more about what it is we're dealing with here. We've read another book by this author in the past, and we really enjoyed that one. It was called The Game, and it was a lot of fun. She's a good storyteller, and she does really well with dialogue, so as you could tell with that last chapter, it was a lot of dialogue there, and it was a good, normal flowing conversation. Like, it didn't seem forced at all, which sometimes can happen in a book, but our author Jennifer does really well. Posture. Okay. Oh, wait. Shoot. I just realized. Duh. So I won't be reading this Thursday, obviously, because it's Thanksgiving. And then Sunday, that's when I'm traveling to do the whole ghost hunt thing. So there won't be a stream on Sunday either. I'm really sorry, guys. That'll be 2 streams in a row where I will be missing. I mean, Thursdays is understandable. I get that. Yeah. But we'll make up for it. We will find a way. So just keep that in mind. No stream this coming Thursday and then Sunday. Oof. I'm not sorry about Sunday because I get to see you in person. This is true. You and a bunch of other people. We all get to hang out. It's going to be exciting. Stepmama's mama's going to make me do a live reading right there in her living room. All right, let's see. We're on page 39 of our book. We're on chapter 4 because chapter 4 comes after chapter 3. You'll learn math in this stream. Guaranteed. And I also realized my text is like, if I do this, and then put that right there, that's pretty close. All right. Chapter 4. Here we go. The sound of barking wrenched Janelle out of a sound sleep. For a moment, she was back to that night where they had tracked her in the woods. The dogs. They have found me. She leaped out of bed, feeling something tear in her chest as she did. Ignoring the flood of hot wetness that soaked her bandages, she grabbed the old coat and her sword. If she moved fast enough, she might make it to the trees in time to escape. Sorry, Orion, she said to an empty house. She broke for the door and ran out into the open porch in her bare feet. The brightness of the sunlight blinded her. When she got her vision back, she realized the barking wasn't coming from the dogs. It was a dog. It was a dog, all right. Just not a dog. No, I realize as I read this, it makes absolutely confusing sense because I'm just saying the word dog over and over. But in the text, I'll see if I can point this out to you. The trustees version of the dog is a different written version. There you go. Where it has the D, capital D, and capital G. So it was a dog, all right, just not a dog. So I just don't know how to say it differently. It wasn't a dog, but it was a dog, just not that dog. It's the other dog. So if it gets to be like that in a future sentence, I will make sure you understand. I will point it out. Because I can see why it would be confusing. Is it a dog? Is it not a dog? I don't know, dog. Okay. Play nice, pop filter. I hate pop filters. They're so big and annoying. But they help. Alright. Off the right side of the house, in a copse of trees, a tiny black and white terrier barked in a dark shadow. Janelle laughed with relief. They hadn't found her yet. Then she realized what the shadow was. A small green Wyrm? Yeah, I think. W-Y-R-M. A small green Wyrm lifted its sinewy... Jennifer, are you here? Author? Are you in the chat? Help. She's not here. Lifted its sinewy head and hissed at the dog, who yelped and jumped backward before barking again. That word I'm trying to say, lifted its sinewy head, S-I-N-E-W-Y. I'm not too familiar with the pronunciation of that word. But either way, it lifted its head. That's the main thing. Ah, hell. The Wyrm will kill him. Wyrms were smaller relatives of dragons. Legless, they had residual wings and a nasty, venomous bite. She drew her sword and ran the short distance to the copse. There was no hesitation in her action. A quick, downward motion lopped the Wyrm's head from its body. The now headless body coiled around itself for a few seconds before lying still. A musky, snake-like odor filled the air. The dog, danger over, crept up to the head and sniffed it. It's okay. It's dead, Janelle said. Come here, boy. The dog looked at her and issued a low growl. It's okay, boy. I'm not gonna hurt you. She knelt in the grass. The dog flattened its ears and growled again, but the growl ended in a whine. She held out her hand, palm down, fingers dangling, and the dog crawled over to sniff her fingers. She saw it was a little male black and white terrier. Janelle scratched under his neck and patted its head. Good boy. The dog wagged his tail. He rolled over on his back, rolling in the dirt and exposing his belly for a rub. She scratched his chest, but stopped when she noticed all the scars. What happened to you? She touched them with her fingers. The dog whined, but made no move to rise. The scars covered his chest and belly. It looked like someone had burned the dog several times. A twig snapped behind her. Janelle swung around, wrenching her injury yet again. The pain made her wince. The dog growled low in his throat at the new sound. He leapt. Dog, no! Orion caught the snarling animal by the scruff of his neck. He hung it in the air, snarling and barking. Friend of yours? Orion asked. Janelle came over and snatched the dog from his grasp. I heard him barking, she said. The dog stopped growling and licked her face. Not sure he'd make such a great pet, Orion said. Why not? Look at his belly. Those are training burns. Training burns? Yeah, to keep him on his feet, not submitting. It's a fighting dog, or more likely a bait dog. They burn him every time he tries to roll over into a submissive position. But dogfighting's been banned for years. Orion peered at her from over his lenses. Do you really think people obey them laws? They just do it in secret now. Anyway, he'll attack anything that threatens him. He didn't attack me. You obviously didn't threaten him. Janelle set the dog back on the ground. He backed between her legs and growled. You obviously do, she smirked. They walked back to the house. The dog trotted at Janelle's heels. Every time Orion came too close, his hackles raised and he growled. Janelle kept a respectable distance from Orion. The dog can stay outside, he said when they reached the steps of the porch. Danger, she said. I've named him Danger. Orion rolled his eyes. Fine. Danger can stay outside. I'll not have him come at me in my own home. He just needs to get used to you, Janelle said. A glare from the big man put an end to any more protests. He started to go inside and then turned and said, By the way, you really need new clothes. Let me see what I can find for you. Then, tomorrow, we'll take a trip into town to get you some clothes of your own. I want you looking respectable when we hold the meeting Wednesday. Meeting? She asked, kneeling beside Danger to pet him. Yeah, about what we discussed. My anti-trustee friends are very interested. Oh, okay. She'd forgotten all about it in her excitement this morning. They'll be coming here, so I would advise you to lock Danger, he sneered when he said the dog's name, in the barn when they do. Wednesday, so 2 days from now. Sorry, I haven't kept up with the days in months. He grunted and headed inside. Stay, boy, she said to the dog. I'll bring you some food and water. The dog stretched out on the porch, watching her and panting. He was still in the same position when she came back with scraps of meat and a bowl of water. When she was satisfied that he was okay, she went inside. Orion awaited her with her boots and a set of clothes. I had to throw out your shirt and pants. They were too soiled to bother. Saved your boots, though. And you're bleeding again. I'll get more bandages. The clothes were a little large for her, but were clean enough. Before she put her shirt on, which had a deep hood on it, she unwrapped the bandages. The fresh blood made them stick to the wound. The scab had torn. She'd have to be more careful. She wished she would have qualified for one of the better healing sequences. While hers kept her alive, it was slower to heal than the Officer Elite program. She had been working on ranking up when her enlightenment had occurred. One more rank from Major to Colonel, and she would have had it. After replacing the bandages, she pulled the gray tunic over her head. When she put the hood up, it hid her face in the shadow. She had made officer rank easily, the youngest lieutenant ever at 18. But things got more difficult after that. No woman had ever become an officer elite, yet she never got discouraged enough to tell herself that she'd never make it any further. As it was, her position had suited her fine. A few missions here and there, but mostly she drove Tourette wherever he needed to go and acted as his personal bodyguard. It was an honorable position, and she had loved it. Until one fateful day, a couple of days before her enlightenment. On that day, during a trip to Veluvia, she had seen a side of Tourette that had frightened her, that made her question her beloved leader's sanity. The image of a dagger flashed in her mind again. She couldn't grasp the full memory of the events that had transpired that day. But did she even want to? Maria knocked on the door of the bathroom. "Everything okay in there?" She blinked a few times to clear her head. "Yes. Yeah." She opened the door to find him leaning an elbow in the doorway. "How's the wound?" "I tore the scab. Nothing serious. It should heal soon, provided I don't tear it again. So, trip into town tomorrow." "Come on. Get up. Get up!" "Oh, what is it?" She mumbled, forcing her eyes open. Sorry, I think there was a break there that was missed by accident. The last thing was her saying, "So, trip into town tomorrow?" And then it jumps to what seems like that next morning. But there was no break in the story for me to tell. Actually gonna just make a quick note for myself. That way I can let Jennifer know. Just in case she wants to make an edit. You know, the last author that we read a book by, I had that whole confusion between Willow's version and the guy. I've already forgotten his name. But anyway, how the story got kind of flipped from one chapter to the next. I let her know, but she has not replied. She's just kind of whatever. Hunter, thank you. Yes. Yeah, I let her know because I figured, something as significant as that, you would want to, kind of remold it a little bit so that you're choosing one version or the other and not trying to do both, because obviously both wouldn't work, as we found out. But yeah, I told her, and I got nothing in response, so it was really unfortunate. I don't ever try to be mean to authors that have something that's been missed in a book. I want their book to do well. I want it to be successful for them. I want them to feel proud of what they've done. So anytime I mention something, I do it with as much humility as I can, because I know what it's like to have issues on a page, believe me. But for some reason, she just did not appreciate my feedback. So, but I have a feeling Jennifer Terrell, who is our current author, won't mind. So, in fact, I'm going to send her a quick message just in case she can't come on. Hold on. Okay. Send her a quick message. In the meantime, let's just pretend there was a break in the story. And it's now the next morning. Come on, get up. Get up. What is it? She mumbled, forcing her eyes open. Days are wasting. It's nearly noon. We gotta get a move on if we're going to make it into town before the shops close. Janelle glanced out the window. The shadows told her it wasn't as late as Orion said it was, but she threw the covers off in a flourish. She felt more rested than she had in a long time. Last night, she didn't even remember her head hitting the pillow. I locked the mud of your, oh no, that's Orion, sorry. I locked that mud of yours in the barn after getting Missy out. Don't want him following us into town and attacking nobody. That's fine. Who's Missy? My mare. You haven't seen her yet, have you? Janelle shook her head. She's hooked up to the wagon out front. Thought we'd journey into town in style. He chuckled. It'll make the trip easier on you too. Let's go. We've got things to do, girlie. She replied. She got off work, grocery shopping. Okay, yeah, no problem. Do your thing, Jennifer. I'm talking to her like she can hear me. She can't. Right. Janelle rushed through her morning business. She cleaned herself as best as she could with a rag damp with water from the kitchen sink and an old bar of soap. After pulling her hair back in a ponytail, she fastened her sword belt around her waist. Not much else she could do. She wrinkled her nose and left the bathroom. When we get into town, we could make use of the bathroom there, Orion said when she came out. I know my house is less than adequate. With no power out here, it's understandable. Yeah, the icebox runs on batteries. Batteries? Aren't they prohibited? Yep. The challenging tone in his voice silenced her. The common folk weren't allowed batteries. They were They were reserved for trustee, useful for fieldwork. A commoner caught with batteries could be fined, jailed, or even executed depending on Tourette's mood. But something told Janelle that Orion wouldn't appreciate a lecture, so she kept her mouth shut. Ready? He asked. She nodded and they went out the door. Missy, a great draft mare, rattled her harness and looked their way. She chomped at her bit and watched as they approached ears pricked. Janelle heard the soft, muffled barks of danger coming from the far side of the barn. He'll be fine, Orion said. Get in. He held out a hand to help her up into the seat. His hand dwarfed hers, but his touch was gentle. He seated himself beside her, picked up the reins, and clucked to Missy. She broke into a brisk trot, eager to stretch her legs, and followed two overgrown ruts that led them into the forest north of Orion's house. Janelle had never ridden in a wagon like this. She had always driven a car, forbidden to regular citizens, to take Tourette wherever he needed to go. The troops that traveled farther south, though, often moved in caravans of horses with an officer's wagon for the troop leader, and often a caged, wheeled jail to house apprehended criminals until they made it back to HQ for punishment. The jail was reserved for political criminals and other serious crimes against trustee. Petty thieves and the like were dealt with swiftly, and oftenly violently soon after capture. Regular citizens were forbidden to use any engine-powered form of transportation. For this reason, Tourette didn't like his vehicles to travel too far into the wilderness where rebellious citizens might hijack or steal them. He only allowed the most rudimentary electricity, just enough to support a few lights, an icebox, and a radio for most of the citizens. Many, like Orion, didn't even have that. They lived in seclusion. Seclusion, far from the towns, hoping to avoid Tourette's notice. Janelle had ousted troublemakers on occasion. At least she had thought of them as troublemakers. Now she wasn't so sure. Her memory remained fuzzy on such matters. On the other hand, Trustee and the two major trade cities, Felspar and Veluvia, were a different matter. Trustee had all the modern conveniences and bestowed many upon the trade cities. The cities were Bravia's image to the rest of the world. Excuse me. All major trading with other countries was done through the two cities. It was here that Janelle had spent most of her time, usually Felspar in the northeast. Coal and crops were major exports, and they had often sent her to guard shipments to the city. Coal trucks were the favorite targets of saboteurs and thieves. The wagon hit a rut and jounced her back to the present. "What's the name of the town again? Sawton?" she asked. She had to raise her voice to be heard over the wagon's progress. Most of Bravia's people were simple folk, and this reflected in their town's names. Simple and practical for the most of them. "Yeah," Orion replied. "It's a logging town. Most of the wood goes to Trustee, though." Janelle nodded. She was familiar with the town, although she'd never been there. She had been heading there when the dogs forced her off track. "I would recommend that you leave your sword in the wagon." "Oh? Why?" "It identifies you as a Trustee soldier. Sawton residents are a suspicious lot. It would behoove you to keep a low profile as possible, especially right now." Her hand dropped to the sword sitting in her lap. She knew he was right, but she felt naked without it. It had been part of her for the past 5 years. Even when she'd taken the leap of faith off the cliff, she clutched it to her side so it wouldn't fall. And now he was insisting she leave it behind? "It isn't like it's going to be all day," he said, cutting into her thoughts. "Besides, it'll be safe here. You can hide it under the burlap bags in back." He thrust his thumb over his shoulder toward a pile of old bags. "You'll want to win the trust of the townspeople, not give them a reason to hate you." She sighed, knowing he was right. "If you insist." "Don't act like a child not wanting to leave behind his favorite toy." Orion clucked to Missy, who had slowed to a walk. "Can I ask you a question?" Janelle said after stashing her sword in the back. "Why'd you wear the sunglasses and heavy coat all the time?" Orion glanced over at her. "The glasses should be obvious. The light hurts my eyes. The coat? I'm cold. That answer your questions, girlie?" "Yeah, sure," she said. What a strange man he was. The canopy of the forest diffused the sunlight into a warm glow. Here and there, tiny sunbeams slipped through the leaves and branches to touch the forest floor, like tiny spears of light. The deeper they traveled into the forest, the smoother the ride became. Leaves soon muffled the wheels until the only sounds were the jingling of Missy's harness and the songbirds in the trees. Bravia could be a beautiful place, especially its forests, which covered about 2/3 of the country from its swampy cape all the way up to the mountains on the west side. The northeastern side of Bravia had been cleared for farming hundreds of years ago, but ancient, dense forest overran the rest of the eastern side. Called the Hallowed Hedges. Very few people ever attempted to travel there. Tourette was terrified of the hedges, believing it still contained magics lost to the world a millennium ago. Janelle herself had never seen the hedges. Occasionally, the sun would hide behind a cloud, plunging the forest into a darkness akin to dusk. When that occurred, the birds fell silent, and an eerie quiet fell over the forest. The trip took about 2 hours to complete. Salton was a small village with a tiny center square. There were roughly 100 residences lined up near 2 rows on either side of the road that led into town. The commercial district consisted of a tavern, a small general store, a tailor, and a public bath on one side of the square. On the other lay a butcher, a barber, and a bakery. That sounds like, what was that game I played from time to time? One of my town building games. Gosh, I can't think of it now. Rise of the Settlers. Rise of the Settlers. It sounds a lot like that. Which is cool for me because I can visualize it in my head. Anyway. A huge sawmill overshadowed them all on the north side of the square. In the center of the square, a small fountain resided. The warm day made the fountain a popular place for the village children. At least a dozen youngsters splashed in the water, laughing and squealing with delight. The fountain brought back memories to Janelle. She remembered her 3rd summer at the orphanage, a home run by trustee for Bravia's unwanted and orphaned children. She had been 3 when she'd arrived, just a scared little girl, her life turned upside down by the death of her parents and her older brother. She didn't remember how they died. Some sort of accident. She could barely remember her mother's face. Her father she remembered even less. They were just vague images now, ghosts from her past. She remembered more of her older brother, for he always teased her about being a girl. They spent their days helping their parents to run the farm. And then, tragedy struck, leaving her alone and scared in a strange place with strange people. She had been terribly shy, rarely speaking at all, yet that 3rd summer at the orphanage, something wonderful had happened. The orphanage had a fountain in the back, hidden within a maze that ended near the Bravia River. It was her favorite place to visit when she'd had free time. The nuns that ran the orphanage were gentle women, the last of their kind in a dying order. No one worshipped the gods anymore. It was all about the null or nothingness, though the nuns tried to teach the children the old ways. Tourette was not one for the gods. He tolerated the nuns for one reason only: the orphanage where most of the trusty soldiers came from. Janelle remembered one hot day that summer at the fountain. The nuns had let the children out of their schooling early to escape the heat of the old building. Most of the children went straight to the river to play in the water, chilled by its mountain passage. Janelle weaved through the maze to the fountain, hoping to find solitude to read the new picture book she'd picked up at the library. Instead, a young boy about her age sat on the lip of the fountain, dangling his feet in the water. Janelle gave a gasp of surprise and ducked just inside the maze out of view. The boy had a shock of black, unruly hair and large, dark, mischievous eyes. His skin was darker than hers, with an olive tone to it. He must have heard her, for he looked in her direction. "Don't go," he said. She stood a moment, frozen, unable to decide whether to run or stay. Her heart pounded in her chest. She clutched the book to her little breast. Then he smiled at her. It was a genuine smile, yet it had hints of sadness to it. "I'm new here," the boy said. "What's your name?" She remained where she was. She didn't enjoy talking to people, especially the other kids. They made fun of her because she was shy. The little boy stood. He wore the same uniform as all the boys, a light gray buttoned and collared shirt, and black broadcloth pants with black shoes. "I'm Jack." Something about him made her put one foot in front of the other. She took a couple of hesitant steps and stood on the open grass surrounding the fountain. "Janelle," she whispered. "Did you lose your parents too?" She nodded. He hung his head. "Mine died in a fire. Our whole house burned down." He drew up the right leg of his pants. "I still have the scars." She crept over to him and examined the shiny skin on his legs. "Did it hurt?" she asked. "Hi, zombie. Thank you for the lurk. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be active in your stream today, but I was glad to be able to at least pop in and see you in your massive hoodie. I don't know what exactly you were wearing, but it looked cool." "No worries. Thank you." "Oh, yes. It hurt like hell." He covered his mouth with his hands when he saw the shock on her face. "Sorry." "Sister Belle says we aren't supposed to say things like that," Janelle said. "But I think it's okay if you are hurting." She gave him a shy smile. He grinned back at her. "So, what you reading?" She held out her picture book. "Sister Vale and the Naughty Child. I'm gonna be a nun when I grow up." "I want to be a soldier," he said. "Maybe I'll be a soldier too." "Girls can't be soldiers." "Uh-huh. They're one that visits the sisters every week. Her name is Camille. She's a lieutenant. I want to be a lieutenant too." Okay, that was very well written. Obviously it's lieutenant, but, being kids, it's lieutenant. "I thought you wanted to be a nun. And maybe I'll be both." With that, she did something that surprised herself. She threw her book down and cupped her hand in the water of the fountain, sending a stream splashing onto the boy. "Hey!" he cried. Before long, they were splashing and giggling with water spraying everywhere. Their fun caught the attention of one of the nuns, Sister Belle, who raced through the maze, words of admonishment on her lips. "Hey, you two!" she shouted until she saw who it was. Janelle and Jack both stared at her, wide-eyed and guilty, but the nun merely laughed at the sight of the shy little girl and her new friend. "I never thought I'd see the day," Janelle later overheard as they headed back inside to change. "Janelle actually laughing and having fun with another child." It was quite the memory. Orion pulled up to the general store and tied Missy to a hitching post. He gave the mare a pat before motioning for Janelle to follow him inside. The store was dark and crowded with merchandise. A single bare light bulb dangled from the ceiling, casting shadows in the corners and over the shelves of goods. A small lamp provided light for the counter, where a small old man stooped, elbows resting on the counter and his chin cupped in his hands. He looked up as Orion and Janelle entered. To Janelle, he resembled the proverbial crotchety old man with a sour look on his face. A hooked beak for a nose, gray mutton chops, eyebrows like a furry white caterpillar, and a receding hairline that had left behind in its wake. He wore a dingy yellow shirt with sleeves rolled up and a dark green apron. His sour face lit up with a grin when he saw Orion. Orion, good to see you, my friend. Out of sake already? Orion laughed and approached the counter. They exchanged firm handshakes. Janelle lingered behind, examining the man's goods. How goes it, Henri? Orion asked. Slow day. The older man shrugged. Who's your friend? This is, Jewel. Janelle noticed the pause as Orion corrected himself. Jewel, eh? Where are you from, darling? Felspar, she replied. Orion was right. It wouldn't do to reveal her true self. Felspar, eh? You don't look Felsparian. Your parents, merchants? She winced at her mistake. Most Felsparians were olive-skinned, like Jack. I was adopted. Adopted, eh? Lucky trustee didn't sink their claws into you. That you are. Fracking bastards. Begging your pardon. He turned back to Orion. Did you know they were crawling around here a couple of days ago, looking for recruits from the poor? He spat an imaginary wad. Fracking bastards. Preying on the poor. Janelle's curiosity was piqued. What do you mean? They were what? They visit the poorest folks they can find, those with too many mouths to feed, and offer to buy the youngest. The younger the better. Then they ship them off to that damned orphanage and raise them into fracking soldiers. Disgusting it is. What? She had never heard of this. Was it possible? No. Her parents had been killed in an accident when she was 3, right? An icicle ran down her spine. You okay, darling? Enra asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. No, I'm fine. Orion, I'm going over to the tailor to get some clothes. Sure thing. Orion shoved a few coins in her hand. He gripped it tightly. Use my cover, he whispered. She nodded and he let her go. So I'm Jewel in this town, she thought, and pushed the door open to walk outside. She could understand his concern. Using Janelle might raise suspicions. Her thoughts went back to what Onra had said about Trustee and the orphanage. What if her parents and her brother hadn't died in an accident, as she'd been told? She had been too young to remember anything about it. Would there be records of this? Perhaps after fulfilling her mission, she could take a visit to the orphanage and find out. Jennifer. Hi. Glad you could make it in. When I finish this chapter, I will backtrack and find that thing that I found. It's not huge. I just thought you would want to know just in case you want to mess with it a little bit. The tailor shop was next door. A cheery place with large windows and a glass entry door that let in plenty of sunlight. Outfits adorned wooden mannequins in the display windows. The store contained ready-made clothing and bolts of cloth for special orders. As soon as she walked in, a lively, gay gentleman in a fancy navy suit accosted her. "Welcome," he said, and grabbed her by the elbow. "What can I help you with, my dear? Looks like you could use a new wardrobe. That it does." He smothered a chuckle. "Flavius, at your service." "Nice to meet you. I'm Jewel," she replied, liking this guy. "I'm not looking for anything too, flamboyant, shall we say? Just simple tunics and pants. Oh, and socks and undergarments." "Well, you came to the right place, darling. Let's see what we have for you." He brought her over to the ladies' clothing section. Frilly blouses and long, graceful skirts. "Morley, hello, loves. Hope we're having a glorious day. You know, not too bad, thank you. How are you? It's good to see you." "Oh, this would be divine on you, if I do say so myself." He held up a vibrant blue blouse. "And this skirt, ooh la la. You'd be the talk of the town, if you know what I mean." He winked and nudged her with his elbow. "They are lovely, but I'm looking for something simpler. Easy to travel in. I do like the color of the blouse, though. Blue is my favorite color." "It is lovely, isn't it? Let's see." He started looking around. Doing pretty good. Just got my fantasy romance standalone in Kickstarter pre-launch. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. Good for you. And I lost my place because why? I didn't put my thumb where I needed to put it. Here we go. "A pullover top?" she suggested. Well, I have these." Was there disappointment in his voice? "They are rather plain, though." She picked up one of the shirts he was pointing to, yet seemingly reluctant to pick up himself. "Perfect," she said. The shirt was of a lightweight, stretchy knit. She chose an olive green and a dark charcoal gray. Those colors," he seemed horrid. "I'm traveling," she reminded him. "Do you have any trousers to match? No skirts." "Over in the men's section." She almost laughed at the disappointment in his voice, but changed it into a smile instead. He brought her a couple of pairs of pants. "These should fit you," he said, holding a pair of black trousers up to her waist. "I have a dressing room in the back if you'd like to try them on." "No, it's fine. They look great. I trust your eye." He folded the pants back up and laid them and a tan pair on the counter. She topped them off with 2 shirts. "And how many pairs of socks?" 3 should be fine, but boot socks, please." Now he resembled a whipped dog obeying his master. And I'll need a stretch bra, knit if you have it, and small panties. 2 should be good. He added them to the pile. After figuring the cost, he said, "That'll be 4 silvers and 3 copper." Janelle looked at what Orion had handed her. 2 gold pieces flashed in the sunlight. How about that blue blouse and skirt?" His eyes lit up. 1 gold for all, and I'll throw in a matching bra and panties. "Done," she said, and tossed a gold piece on the counter. She hoped Orion wouldn't be angry. This was probably a lot of money for him. Flavius wrapped her clothes in brown paper and tied the package with string. He was just about to hand it over when Orion poked his head in the door. "Jewel, come on, we have to go." His voice sounded urgent. "Orion, darling," Flavius greeted the big man. "Is this lovely creature yours?" "A friend," he replied, then turned his attention back to Janelle. "We have to go. Now." Janelle nodded and rushed to the door, package in hand. "Come back soon." Chaotic Soul redeemed 10 push-ups. Alright. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3 and a quarter pages. My hubby. Well, your hubby wants to see me do push-ups. I'm gonna edit the counts.
Yep, that tasted purple.
And Purple's here. Hi, Purple. Alright, Jennifer's husband. I will do your push-ups right after we finish this chapter. She turned back to him. "Thank you," she replied. Orion ushered her out the door and back toward the wagon. "A handful of trusty soldiers walked into the bar as I was loading the wagon," he said. "I don't want to overstay our welcome." Janelle nodded and jumped up on the wagon, taking a seat. She dropped the package of clothing in the back behind her, then covered her head with the hood on her shirt. Orion untied Missy and jumped beside Janelle. A quick cluck and a slap of the reins got the old mare moving. They had to go past the bar on the way to the residential area. As they passed by, the open door remained dark. They moved into the residential section and Janelle breathed a sigh of relief. There appeared to be no troops around, but she was disappointed she hadn't got to use the bathhouse. "Not today, girlie," Orion replied. "Maybe not ever. Here, anyway. Word is, they were looking for you. Enra told me about it after you left." "I thought they were looking for recruits." "That too." "Orion, I have to move on then. I don't want to endanger anyone's lives, yours especially." "I'll be fine." "But if they come to your place?" "They won't, trust me." A conspiratorial sneer formed on his lips. "They'd never make that mistake again." "Oh gods, what did you do?" He peered over the rim of his glasses. "You don't want to know." The sneer turned into a grin. Janelle's heart skipped a beat. "Oh, okay." She retreated into the shadow of her hood. What was that? Heart? she asked herself. I'm not falling for this guy. But the way he'd looked at her just then, it sent a shiver from her heart to her gut. A good shiver. Well now, what's this? Orion brought the wagon to a halt. Jeez. I will, cheers. With my yellow, pixelated, green screen water bottle. Orion brought the wagon to a halt. They were near the outskirts of the residential area. In front of them, a couple of logging teams in a wagon like their own had stopped at what appeared to be a trusty checkpoint. Orion laid a hand on her arm, which she tried to rise. Stay where you are. They've already seen you. Just act like a shy maiden and try not to show your face. Her heart pounded in her ears. She turned her head toward Orion. Ahead of them, the two logging teams were waved on. The soldiers spoke with the wagon as soon as it went on its way. Orion drove Missy up to the checkpoint. Janelle peeked at the two soldiers. She didn't recognize either of them. One was an officer, a lieutenant, according to his uniform decoration. The other was a private, who looked like he had better places to be, like the bar. The lieutenant came around on Orion's side. Good afternoon, sir. We're wondering if by chance you have seen this woman. The lieutenant showed Orion a photograph. Orion took it from him and studied it for a moment. Nope, sorry. Can't say I have. How about your son? Perhaps he has. My son's a simple lad. Ah, I see. So sorry to have bothered you. Enjoy your day. Throughout the entire exchange, Janelle kept her face turned toward Orion's massive shoulder. She thanked the null that her tunic covered her feminine characteristics of her body. Orion clucked to Missy and they were on their way again. They rode in silence until the forest swallowed them. The town was well behind them when she punched Orion in the shoulder. So, I am a simple lad, am I? Orion grunted. Hey, it was a good cover, wasn't it? Besides, it was the soldier who took you for a boy. Janelle laughed. And probably saved my life. Thank the null. She relaxed and threw the hood back. So, how much money did Flavius con out of you? A gold piece? Is that bad that I bought a nice blouse and skirt because I felt sorry for him? He looked so disappointed that I wanted drab clothing. Orion burst out laughing. That's Flavius for you. You should see the fabrics he recommends for me. He comes from Veruvia. So, that's what you would expect. A likable fellow. I mean, I like him. How did he end up in Swanton? Sawton. That's his story to tell. Perhaps you can ask him yourself tomorrow night. He's a member of your anti-trustee group? Yep. Him and Andra and Hansa. You haven't met Hansa yet. He's the barkeep. There's just 4 of you. Yep. Any larger and we'd run the risk of being discovered. Yet, you trust me with this. He glanced over at her. Yes. I'm laying it all on the line for you. Don't make me regret my decision, girlie. I won't, she said, but she was worried. So much could go wrong between now and when they would leave for her quest. If Orion or she were caught, or worse, killed, between now and then, it would all be for naught. Anything could happen. Anything could go wrong. Although it was a risk she had to take, Janelle was unsettled. This was one of those times when she wished she could fast forward and get on with her mission. She would never admit to Orion, but she was scared. And that is chapter 4. That was a pretty cool chapter. I'm almost getting like a Dungeons and Dragons vibe too. I don't know why. Anyway. Jennifer, let me find that spot that I made a mark on so I can explain it to you. And I don't think I went back far enough. Let's see. Like I said, it's not a huge deal. It was just something I noticed. Okay, seriously. Did my ink disappear? What the heck? We read chapter 2. We started on chapter 3. We just flicker through the pages here. Got into chapter 4. Ah, here it is. Okay. So, Jennifer, in obviously the printed version, right? On page 43, towards the bottom, there's a section where it says, I tore the scab, nothing serious. It would heal soon, provided I don't tear it again. And then she asks, so, trip into town tomorrow? Right there, it doesn't look like there's a break, but the next sentence is him saying, come on, get up, get up. So there's time that has passed by. So it looks like there should be a break right there, like presenting itself as a disconnect. At least that's what I understood based on what we read. Because when I started reading it, I just was obviously just continuing to read it, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. There's time has passed by here. She didn't suddenly just fall asleep and then get woken up. I see, there was a break. Maybe it accidentally got deleted when I redid it. Okay, that's kind of what I figured. I just wanted to let you know. So, bottom of page 43 in the printed copy. So I just figured I'd let you know. That way, if you wanted to track it down, you can. Didn't disrupt the story at all. It just caught me off guard. Thank you, I'll correct it. Yeah, no problem. It's, little things like that are so easy to miss. It's ridiculous how annoying it is to get your work done, get it out there, and then figure out after the fact that there's just one small little annoyance of a detail. It's never simple. Store's pretty great so far. I'm really enjoying, I was saying earlier before you hopped in, that you have a really good way of making the dialogue between the characters feel very natural and free-flowing. And I really like that about your stories. Yeah, and I'd reformatted it recently, so I bet I messed it up. Could have been. Easily done though, right? Especially when you're not looking for it. Oh, that was a good neck crack. Thank you, dialogue is my specialty. I love doing it. Well, I can tell. You do it justice. I mentioned this earlier as well, so just so that you're up to speed on the schedule. This Thursday is obviously Thanksgiving, so there won't be a stream on Thursday. And then Sunday, that's the day when I'm traveling to do my real life ghost hunt. I don't know if you were there when that was mentioned, but this is a ghost hunt that myself and like 14 other people, many of which who are streamers, are partaking in. So we're all meeting up and doing the thing. But that's I travel on Sunday, the hunt is on Monday, and then I come back home on Wednesday. So unfortunately, I hate to say it again, but there'll be another break between reads, and I feel really bad about that. I hate having too many interruptions in a book, especially when we're trying to keep the story in our heads, you know. But unfortunately, with the holiday season and then having this trip already planned, it is what it is. But the good thing is, I don't mind if it goes longer than it has to, because I really like your work. So I'm a fan. All right. And on that note of being a fan with an F, not a than with a TH. Let's read chapter 5, and then we'll find someone to go say hello to. And just so you know, we have a bunch of other really cool streamers in here that are hanging out this evening. Hey D was in here earlier. Rexter is in here. Rampage Rhino, another cool guy, definitely worth checking out. Purple, of course, one of my mods. She's a wonderful human being. Definitely check her streams out too. And I'm sure there's some people hiding in the shadows. If you click on the people list, you'll see them. I'm sure the stunts are here somewhere, lurking in the shadows. As they often do when I read, because they just like to listen in the background. All right, we are on page 60. Chapter 5. Here we go. Today is Stunt Papa's birthday. That's right, I know. If he were here, I would do the birthday command, but I can't imagine he would come in here on his birthday. He has plenty of other cool things to do. That much I know is true. Oh, and IO push-ups. Let me do those real quick, and then we'll continue our reading. All right, thank you for that quick workout redeem. I appreciate that. Nailed it.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
Thank you for realizing my true potential, Stunt Mama's mama. All right, chapter 5. Here we go. The three men didn't show until dusk the following night. They arrived separately, Orion explains, so as not to be caught under suspicion of leaving as a group. Janelle spent the first hour of the anti-trustee meeting feeling more like a barmaid than a co-conspirator. She fetched sake and food for the men and took Hans's blunt jokes out of courtesy to Orion. But she was used to being thought of as a servant or the lesser sex, and inside she smoldered. The men talked boisterously, getting drunker by the minute. Flavia's story about the encounter with the trustee soldiers the day before included such remarks as, "Such sweet little things," and wanting to touch their tushies, which sent the other men rolling with peals of laughter. Then Flavius looked right at her and, in all seriousness, said, "They were looking for you." Janelle, who had been about to hand a fourth bottle of sake to Orion, froze mid-motion. Orion, his hand on a bottle, froze as well. "What do you mean?" she asked, the blood draining from her face. "They showed us a picture," Henri said. "All of us. Said they was looking for a deserter. 'Twas you." "Don't worry, my dear," Flavia said. "We didn't rat you out." "You was with Orion," Henri said. "We figured something must be up, so we kept our mouths shut. We don't help no trustee soldiers." Hansa, the youngest of the three, for he looked to be not much older than Janelle, spoke. A handsome fellow. He had his brown hair pulled back and tied with a piece of leather. His hazel eyes gleamed in the firelight as they sat around a small fire pit. "When they showed me your photo, I was all like, damn, there's no way in hell lands that she's a soldier." He reached out to slap her ass, but she grabbed his wrist, twisting it behind him, not unlike the way Jock had done to her. "My ass is not for your entertainment." Her program flashed, causing the other two men to gasp. "So it's true," Flavia said. The group fell silent. Janelle released the hapless lad, who whimpered and held his arm. "Oh, get over it, baby," Orion said. He let out a belt of laughter. Janelle stood back, arms crossed, and surveyed the band of ragtag anti-trusters. All she saw was a group of stump lickers who got together every so often to rage about their hatred of trustee and to steal bravery from their bottles of sake, drinking it until it saturated their blood enough for them to think they could rise against trustee. But in truth, they were timid deer, licking at the broken remains of trees until the sound of a hunter sent them scrambling for the depths of the forest, or in this case, stunned into silence by the flash of her program. "Yes," she said, "it is true. I am a deserter. But at least I'm not a stump licker like you fools." She didn't know if they were familiar with the term, used in trustee for cowards, but even if they weren't, it caught their attention quick enough. You spend night after night drinking until you can barely stand, all the while plotting things against trustee that you'll never go through with. Am I right? She waited for an answer, but no one spoke. Even Orion was silent. "I said, am I right?" The men mumbled and nodded. "Do you really think that all this drinking will give you the courage you need? Well, it won't. It may make you think you can be a fucking hero, but in fact, all it does is rob you of your will to act." She had their full attention now. Let me tell you a story. My story and how I came to be here. Yes, I was a soldier. I was raised in the orphanage right after my parents were killed in an accident. When I turned 13, I passed the rigorous testing for trustee. They installed the program in my brain when I turned 15. It was the most painful experience I ever remember having. After that, the program dictated my decisions. Hansa interrupted. If you have a program, how could you desert? Wouldn't the program defeat things like that? I'll get into that to him in a minute. Just listen. I moved up in the ranks and became an officer at 18. Tourette picked me for his personal driver and bodyguard. I didn't have to think. The program did everything for me. I received my orders via updates and carried them out. And then, one day, 6 months ago, everything changed. I went in for a routine update, but instead of receiving it, I became enlightened. Trustee's hold on me was broken. The Enlightenment gave me a glance into the real trustee, how twisted Tourette was. The images of horrors he had committed fused to my brain, and it gave me a mission. A mission to find someone who could set it right. Why did it choose me? Because the day before I saw Tourette for what he really was. She paused and took in a deep breath. There was no way she'd tell them any more. She didn't even like to think about that day, what he had done. She barely remembered any of it. That goddamn dagger. Instead, she said, as soon as the program released me, men came to stop me. That day, Janelle had seated herself in the padded chair and connected the computer's plug to the port behind her ear. Instead of the normal darkness and hum of the update as it downloaded, she experienced a bright, painful flash in her mind. Confused, she continued to sit, trying to figure out what was wrong. No warnings flashed in her mind. Instead, images paraded past her inner vision. Images of Tourette and atrocities she was unaware of. She saw people gunned down in their homes and on the streets, crying children forced from the arms of their mothers, blindfolded prisoners, murdered, execution style. The images flew by in a flash, barely giving her conscious mind time to process them. But her subconscious absorbed them. The program saved the files onto her internal hard drive. Words were spoken. The sentence that screamed in her mind the loudest was, "Find Chris Jordison." Over and over it repeated, although now she knew it was K-R-I-S, but at that time she pictured it as C-H-R-I-S. She was driven to complete this task, to locate the person no matter what it entailed. But first, she had to get out of the compound. The Enlightenment update fell silent. Janelle yanked the plug from her port and pushed herself out of the chair. Every nerve in her body told her to run now. But that would look suspicious. She forced herself to leave the dark room at a walk. A short distance from the hallway, the exit door led out to the basement garage. There, she could secure a vehicle and hightail it out of the headquarters. As she entered the garage, the compound's warning system blared. Trustee's headquarters was built into the side of a mountain in the Korean mountain range. The soldiers' barracks, mess hall, and various officers and outbuildings fanned out from the main entrance. An enormous wall with a gated entrance surrounded the whole compound. The garage entrance sat off to the left of the main entrance. Inside the garage, Janelle scouted the area, looking for her vehicle. It wasn't hard to find, right by the open garage door. Fishing her keys from her pocket, she darted around various vehicles and surprised mechanics until she arrived at the Jeep. Usually an open top. The hardtop was still in place from driving through the rain the day before. An image flashed in her mind of that day. Something she just did not have time to recall right now. She had to get out of here. She cleared her head and slipped behind the wheel. As she put the car in gear, she heard shouts coming from all directions. The garage door started to close. She gunned it. The car shot from the low light of the garage into the bright sunlight of midday. With the alarm sounding, the whole compound was alive with activity. All of it centered on her. She zoomed through the grounds. The gate was up ahead, and it was open. She could see troops trying to wave a huge semi through the gate, but the driver did not comply. Why, Janelle never found out, though she figured that either the truck had broken down or the driver had misunderstood the soldiers. The space between the truck and the gate on the left side was just enough to squeeze through. Janelle raced for it, soldiers scattering as she passed. Shots fired, but she ignored them. She made it out of the compound with a posse on her tail. Without knowing where she was going, she turned right, taking the road that led to the coast. Right as she broke from the trees near the coast, an RPG struck her vehicle, blowing it onto its roof. The impact crumpled the hardtop for a moment. For a moment, she was trapped inside, bleeding and hurting, but that drive kicked in again and told her to flee. She pulled herself from the wreck. As she tried to decide what to do, blood pouring down her face in rivulets, she saw the pursuers approach. "They tried to stop me," Janelle told the men at Orion's. "I was at the edge of a cliff with the ocean at my back. I thought all hope was gone, but something told me to fall." The men were enraptured now. Janelle sat beside Orion. "It was a dragon. This huge, black dragon. He caught me, and we flew south to an island off the coast of the southern tip of Bravia. He nursed me back to my health by bringing me food while my program healed my wounds. At the very least, I had a broken arm, broken ribs, numerous deep cuts and bruises, and a concussion. My program healed everything. But the whole time, I felt driven to find Chris Jordison. It was the first thing on my mind when I woke up, and the last thing I thought before I slept. When I felt better, Jinshin, the dragon, was nowhere to be found. The island was wooded, so I bound some trees and made a raft, which I used to sail to the mainland. That was 3 months ago. I've been looking for Chris Jordison ever since. Orion promised to help me, but only if I helped you guys first. I know you hate Trustee. I know they've limited your electricity use, and I know how to rig it. So you'll get it back, and they won't suspect a thing." Janelle picked up the last of the sake bottles, exhausted. She kicked the sand over the glowing embers of the fire. Inside, Orion ran water to wash dishes under the glow of a lantern. When she walked inside, he grinned at her eyes sparkling with drunken excitement in the light. The men hadn't started stumbling home until well after midnight. Janelle was tired, but she'd accomplished what she'd set out to accomplish. On the night of the dark moon, 1 week hence, she, Orion, and Hansa were going to sabotage the power plant and bring full electricity back to Salton. The plan was simple, yet dangerous. If they were discovered, heads could roll. Literally. Orion strolled over to her and picked her up, making her drop a few of the bottles. They smashed on the ground, but he paid them no heed. "You, girlie, are a godsend," he said, squeezing her in a bear hug. "Did you see the guys? They have a purpose now, and it's all because of you." She almost protested him picking her up, but he was in such a good mood she didn't want to spoil it. Besides, she somewhat enjoyed being smashed up against him. The sound of water splashing on the floor interrupted them. "Ah, shit." He let her go to run and turn off the faucet. Luckily for him, she landed on her feet. "I don't know why I even bothered," he said, twisting the knob. "I hate washing dishes, but I had to do something. I ain't tired at all. You sparked something tonight. I ain't never seen the guys so raring to go." Fun fact, I obsessed over the moon phases to get them right throughout the book. Awesome. I like when fun little details like that come into play. So well done. "Maybe it was my nice ass," Janelle said, only a little bitter. If Orion heard, he didn't reply, so she bent to pick up the broken sake bottles. His attention had moved back to the dirty dishes. She collected the glass into her hand. "Do you have something I could... Ah, son of a bitch." A sharp point of glass pierced her palm. Oh, damn it. "You okay?" he asked, bringing over a bag for the glass. "Yeah, the program will heal it in an hour or so, but it still hurts like a son of a bitch." She let the glass slide into the bag. Blood seeped between her fingers and plopped on the floor. "How deep is it?" "Not much. Let me see. Here. Let's rinse it under the cold water." "It'll be fine," Janelle protested. "I don't want to get blood into your dishwater." He reached over and pulled the plug. "Fuck the dishwater. Give me your hand, girlie." She looked up at him as he took a hold of her hand and held it under the running water. His brow knitted with concern. She laughed. "Really, Orion, it's okay. It'll heal fast. The program will take care of any problems." "I just want to make sure the glass is out." She leaned in close over their hands. "Looks good to me. It stopped bleeding already." She could smell the alcohol on his breath. Their eyes met for a brief second. Orion pulled away first and turned off the water. "I need some air," he said, and stumbled past her. He staggered out onto the porch. Curious, Janelle peered through the window above the sink. Orion stood at the railing with his hands on the wood, staring off into the distance. She pushed the door open. He didn't move, so she stepped outside. "You all right?" "Yeah," he said, not once taking his eyes off the tree line at the edge of the meadow. She moved to lay a hand on him, but he shrugged her off. "Don't," he said, then fell silent. Something bothered him, something that hadn't been there a few minutes ago. But Janelle did not know what. and she was afraid to ask him. I have an idea. I think it has something to do with a lost love, but that's just my 2 cents. She heard his breath, slow and whistling, through his nose. Now and then, he sighed. It was a deep and troubled sigh. Sometimes it came out as a quiet whimper. She didn't know how much time passed before he spoke. When he did, his voice was quiet, solemn. On nights like this, I would sit with Linnea for hours watching the moon track across the sky. We lived in Tannen then, and the lights obscured much of the sky. She would have loved it here. The stars, the moon, everything is so much brighter out here. Janelle nodded, afraid that words might upset the spell he was under. That day, the day Trustee came for my family, is the day I died. The only thing that kept me going after was hatred. They shot my family dead in the streets. I saw them dragged from our house by one of the masked soldiers. And I ran so fast, but I was too far away. My Linnea. My precious Linnea. His words dropped off into a quiet well of tears. This time he didn't resist her arm around him. She whispered the only thing she could think of, though it would never be enough. I'm sorry. He peered at her, his eyes red with tears and sake. Tonight, you reminded me so much of her. She never took shit from any man. Such a strong woman, never afraid to speak her mind. When I looked into her eyes earlier, I swear I saw her staring back at me. Janelle put another arm around him. I bet she's watching you, she said. And she's damn proud of you. He embraced her in a soft hug. Yeah, I bet she is too. At that moment, an agitated yipping came from the barn. Shit, I forgot all about the little booger. Janelle eased herself off from Orian's embrace. Coming, Danger. Orian surprised her by following her to the barn. When she pushed the door open a crack, a white nose poked its way out, whimpering. What? Do you want out? Do you, boy? The whimpering erupted into impatient yips. Laughing, Janelle pushed the door open wide enough for Danger to dart through. He tore around the meadow, barking and yipping, stopping only to sniff or pee. Orian's laughter joined hers. His arm slipped around her in the darkness and pulled her to him. His glasses shined in the moonlight. A sudden quiet fell. Even the dog ceased barking. In the silence, Orian kissed her. She almost drew back in surprise, thoughts of Jack and something else more sinister running through her head, but Orian's lips were soft, softer than she imagined, and his kisses so urgent that she fell into him, taking it all in until Danger started pulling on Orian's pant leg, growling. Janelle separated from Orian with a laugh, scooped the dog up, and carried him to the house. But she was unsettled. She didn't know how to take this sudden affection from the big man. It scared her, but it also thrilled her. She dumped Danger on the porch and went inside. Orian followed. Once in the house, he grabbed her hand and turned her toward him. She gazed up at him. The longing in his eyes stirred something inside of her. He bent to kiss her again, and she let him. In his urgency, he pushed her up against the wall. His hands grabbed for her shirt. A pain ripped through Janelle's head, and she pulled away. A sudden image, another suppressed memory, invaded her mind. Just a quick flash of an image. Tourette standing in front of her, a needle-thin plug in his hand, and a smug look of violence on his face, his golden dagger gleaming at his waist. Janelle crouched, holding her head in her hands. The image vanished. As it did, the world came back to her. Orion bent over her, asking if she was all right. She tried to speak, tried to tell him she was okay, but no words came out. He picked her up and sat her on the bench at the kitchen table. He grabbed her a cold bottle of sake from the icebox, which she accepted with gratitude. "I'm sorry," she said after a few swigs. "Oh, Orion, I am so sorry. I had this image. It came to my mind. Something Tourette did. I'm sorry." She kept apologizing over and over until he told her not to worry. "Maybe you should just go to bed, girlie," he said, not unkindly. She nodded. He helped her to the bed, then went out on the porch. By the time she fell asleep, he still had not returned. And that is chapter 5. Almost a passionate little love scene there, but no. Images of Tourette invading her mind. Gosh darn it. Not bad. We did about 40 pages this evening. And I'd keep going, but my eyes are getting really tired. And I don't want to make it worse. So, thank you for reading. Was there a trigger warning that I missed? No. No, there's no issues in the story that we're aware of. This was a kiss that was wanting to happen, but she had one of those memories flood her brain and it kind of takes over. And so she kind of lost it. I have a feeling that dude... No, it's not like that. No, he's not putting things in her drinks or stuff like that. There's no assault there. This is a... Oh. Tourette, the memory. Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about Orion. See, I didn't even get the memory as being an assault. Did I miss that? There was the needle and the dagger, but I don't remember it. The memory didn't come across to me as an assault kind of memory. It was more like plugging her into the system kind of memory. Am I incorrect? It is later on, but it's fade to black. Okay, so we don't actually... she doesn't actually relive the memory, right? You've never been assaulted? Not that I'm aware of. Not the whole thing? No, okay. Well, when we get to that part, let me know. And then we'll just preface real quick. Just in case. Just in case. We can pick up on things most people can't. Yeah, I would imagine that would make you more susceptible to kind of sussing it out, if you will, for lack of... Yeah. Well, when that scene does arrive, we don't hear about the whole thing, but we'll still forewarn chat. And Jennifer, if you want on Facebook, if you want to message me the page number where that happens, I will do my best to remember that. I might put a mark on the page or something just so I have it as a reminder. Yeah, of course. Kay, I want to make sure that everyone is aware of... Thank you, Jennifer. I want to make sure everyone's safe and feels comfortable. We're not reading books here to mess with people and torture people. We're reading books here to relax and have a good time. So, you know, I don't want to ruin that. I want to keep y'all safe in this environment. That is my job, and I take it seriously. All right. With that being said, let me find out who we can go say hello to. It looks like Mr. Carrington is on. I'm gonna go to bed. Night. Hey, get some sleep, okay? Please. Get some rest. We'll do a quick raid over to Play Carrington. Thank you, Atkinson. Though I read the book, but I'm loving it. Well, good. Hopefully I'm doing the character some justice. Because I never know. I'm obviously reading it for the first time, so I'm just kind of making it up as I go. Trying to suss it out. You are? Okay, good. Alright, y'all. Thank you again for hanging out with me. It's been a fun pleasure to be with you. As I said before, just a quick reminder, no stream this Thursday because of Thanksgiving. The following Sunday, I will be heading out of town for the in real life ghost hunt. Little IRL phasmophobia, if you will. But we'll be back to our regularly scheduled reading program the following Thursday. So until then, please have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you after the holiday.